Hi, welcome to the Inside Out podcast. I am Cristina Villalón.
I'm Ricardo Álvarez-Díaz, the husband. Anyway, okay, so that was bad. Anyway, thank you for being here. Again, like I've said before, thank you for some of the messages that we're getting. I've gotten some direct messages, basically saying a couple things. Number one, why do you talk over your wife? Be quiet and listen. So that was one. And then the second, why don't you ask her or interview her about some topics? And one of the topics that came up was I have my list here.
Of course you do.
No, one of the topics that I thought it was great was gender equality in design and leadership. Okay, I know this is a very important topic for you.
I love this topic.
So today, my job is to interview you because, as you can imagine, I am not a woman, so I am not best equipped to talk specifically about some of the challenges that you have. I do have 3 daughters, and I have a female dog. Is that how you say it? Is it a female dog? Is that?
I think, yeah.
Anyway, a she dog. Anyway, but I'm gonna jump ahead and ask you a couple things.
Okay? Sounds good. I'm ready.
Perfect. I do have to say that I have an advantage because I do know a little bit of your story. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you some things that might sound personal, but I think are important. So I'm going to push you a little bit.
Sounds good.
Excellent.
I'm ready.
So I'm going to start with a generic question. Cristina, why is the gender equality topic important for you?
Well, why don't I give some context?
There you go.
So first, I do not like injustices.
In general.
In general. So the idea of when I think about gender equality, I think that, men, women, we're equal.
Right.
Period. All human beings should be equal. So the idea that a woman would be paid less for the same job makes absolutely no sense to me. And I find it unjust or unfair. So, and I have 3 daughters. And at the rate that we're going, we will not fix the pay gap for another 2 decades. And that means my daughters will be directly affected. So definitely this is something that is very important to me. And we've been trying to address it internally in our company.
Well, okay, but talk to me a little bit more about when you were growing up. What was your experience? Because I know your dad.
My experience growing up. So I grew up in a home. Well, my father would encourage me that I could be whatever I wanted. So, and I had an older brother, which I looked up to, and I felt that, I could do anything that he could do. Right. At the same time, though, I did witness something that I perceived as somewhat unbalanced, and I think it has to do with the generation and how things were before. In my family, my mom did not work. My father was the breadwinner. And with that, I witnessed an unbalance of power. So my father made all the financial decisions because he was the breadwinner. And at times, he's a wonderful person, but at times he wouldn't consider my mom and what she felt should be done. And that.
Don't you, but let me interrupt you there, because don't you think it's interesting? Because in one hand, he encouraged you to be independent and reminded you every single day.
Yeah, it's
but
ironic.
It didn't seem that he was actually doing it in his household. Is that a fair?
That is fair. And so I think that
I just hope that your father-in-law, my father-in-law is not listening to this, or my mother-in-law.
I love my father. And I think it's a generational thing. Yeah. I think that there's been some evolution, and what I witnessed, I felt I'm gonna work. I will work because I never want to feel in a position where there's an unbalance of power. I think that, and I think it could happen regardless of the gender. I think if one of the 2 people in a partnership or in a marriage has all the financial power, it tips the scales. And I think once you made a great comment about this, I think, and
I did.
you
Look at
did,
me.
you did,
So
Ricardo.
special.
You were in a panel. It was called Conversations with Men. And the idea was to have conversations with men about this topic that affected women, right? Because unless we include men into the conversation, it's unlikely that we're going to solve this issue, right?
Correct. Yeah.
We need to create awareness. So, and one of the things you said, which I thought was right on, was that it, gender shouldn't matter. Like if we take a look at gay couples, they split up the roles regardless of their sex, right? And they just decide who does what. In our society right now, as it stands, there are some just social expectations, and on I'm making generalizations here, right? But for the most part, it's still expected that a lot of the caregiving duties fall on the woman, with her children, with her parents, and that's a huge burden, and there's a huge mental load to that, and there's a lot of invisible work and unpaid work. If we quantify the amount of time that women spend doing all this unpaid labor, and work at home, it's, I mean, I don't know what the number is, but it's crazy. So I think that what you put out there, I thought was great. It's like, if we're a partnership, right? We're married and we split up responsibilities, and it doesn't matter. Like in our home, Ricardo cooks. I hate the kitchen, right? And so, even though I am the woman, and traditionally, and sometimes you make comments like, well, you don't cook.
Thank you for saying that. Well,
But-
I made comments. You're right, but again, it goes back to, sadly, to some things that you grew up with, and you call it, it's on
There's unconscious bias,
Unconscious
and there are
bias.
these expectations. I mean, my
But,
mom.
but I will say this: when you, I think there's narratives that are embedded in that bias. Why would you say, "Oh, I help my wife a lot"? You should say, "We share responsibilities,"
Correct.
instead of just helping someone. Because if you say you're helping someone, that someone,
You're implying that that's not your
no,
responsibility.
you're implying that that person exactly is the one in charge of something, and you're just a helper instead of someone that shares responsibility.
Right. And oftentimes, and I mean, it's okay if you split up the roles in a traditional way, because we do have certain things that we're better at. So, for example, it would be very difficult for you to do gift shopping.
Yeah,
Okay,
but I don't think it has something to do with a man or a woman.
Right.
I have to say that I hate it. I don't like going shopping at all.
Right.
But I was born being very thrifty in general.
Right. But traditionally, gift shopping, right, for birthday parties, for Christmas, or all this tends to fall on the woman in general.
But you said that,
generalization.
well, traditionally also women tend to cook.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. That what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter. And to be fair, before you and I were even married, you were very clear that you will never cook. So
That I didn't
had
like
a
the
choice.
kitchen.
I had a choice, and I chose to stick with the woman that obviously
You chose-
fails
you
in
chose
her
a
roles
partner.
as a female because she doesn't know how to cook.
Yeah. You chose
Yeah.
a partner, not a.
No, I mean, but all jokes aside, the truth is that I mean, I think it's something that has to do with narrative. But also, I think you said it very well. The idea that this is it's more of a issue with fairness, and issues with perception. There's the other side of perception that if you cook and you do a lot of the stuff, I mean, what's wrong with that guy, you know? And you could get a lot of pushback even from the your own family, traditional family, saying, "Why are you cooking all the time?" Well, I don't understand. Why doesn't your wife take care of this stuff? So
Right.
it is a little bit of a pressure, but the truth is that it's no, from my point of view, it's no issue, because if I do it, I'm some sort of god. But if you do it, it's your job.
Exactly. So, for example, I remember when our kids were young and I was traveling
You're working.
and I was working, and you went to, I think it was a birthday party when you were with the two girls. They were little.
Well, the third wasn't born yet,
Right.
so it was two. Yeah.
So you were with two of the girls, and you got there and you're like, oh my God,
Like,
father of the
I'll tell
year.
you what happened.
He's
I got in.
alone with
Yeah.
the girls, and where is his wife? And so, of course, the wife, was the bad mother who had left the children with their father, God forbid. And the father was there at this party. And what happened is all the women automatically took over. So they like, oh, we'll help you. They took the girls. They started.
And it was awesome.
Yeah.
They did nothing.
And so, however,
yeah.
if the situation were reversed, and this is where like the unconscious bias and the societal things come into play.
No one would applaud you because you did what you were supposed to do.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's just like, okay, so, just another Saturday here at a birthday party.
Right. Mm-hmm. I remember that. But again, going back to your upbringing, because I think it's fascinating that part of the reason you're the way you are is because of your dad pushing you to be independent.
And my
your
mom
too.
And my mom, because when my mom would get upset at my dad every once in a while, as would happen in every family, of course, she would say in Spanish, "Nunca dependas de nadie." And it was her way of saying, you have to work and take care of yourself.
If you translate it,
right? Don't depend on anyone. Right. So, so it was basically, you have to be self-sufficient. You have to take care of yourself, because otherwise your choices are limited. And so, and that really stuck. That's carved there in the back of my brain. So
and
it was
keep
never
telling your daughters the same
and I
thing.
tell my daughters the same thing. Absolutely. Because I think I don't want to be in that position where I feel
But have you
powerless.
been in that position though? I mean, because even though you were brought up that way, and then yes, you run your own company and all that stuff, I see you sometimes struggling.
Sometimes I struggle with what is expected of me versus what I would like to be doing. So, for example, when my daughters were young, I remember coming in. It was 5. I think it was 5, maybe 6. My mom was visiting my daughters at my home. And when I came in, she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you're home. Your daughters need you." And then she went on to say, because, the father, the man, he can work late, but your daughters need you home. And I was like, what are you saying? So it's like this expectation that you have to do it all.
Well, you call it the mommy guilt, right?
Definitely. Mommy guilt persists often.
But talk about that. What does that mean?
Well, it's this idea that it's never enough. No matter what you do, it's never enough. Because if you're with the kids, you feel like there's something that you're giving up in your career, and you need to make sure that you do that so that you're not depending on anyone, so that you can take care of yourself and be self-sufficient. And at the same time, if then you start taking care of things at work, and maybe skipping out on some of the motherly duties, then you are judged, or you judge yourself. You're like, oh my God, am I failing as a mom? Am I not doing enough? And so you're constantly trying to split your roles between all these responsibilities. And I think that women feel this guilt. Do you feel this? Do you ever feel this guilt, Ricardo? Is this like completely foreign to you, this feeling?
It is. It's different than what you describe. I feel guilty when I'm flying back and forth to teach because I'm not here enough at the house. But if you're around, I don't feel that guilty. I feel guilty when we're both traveling.
Okay.
But if one is at home, either you and I don't feel guilty at all. I mean, I don't. But then again, that's why this conversation is about you, not about me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think most women that you'd ask, working mothers, would probably accept that they feel guilty, but it's because of all the societal expectations that are placed upon us to, be.
But I think I read someplace that, is it 50 years since the first time women were able to get their own credit without a man? Is that what happened a couple of weeks ago?
Yes, yes.
A
It's
month
been 50 years since women were allowed to get their own credit cards
without
without their
credit in
husband's
general.
approval or
Right.
permission or their father or something. Isn't that insane? That
I
is
mean, you were
insane
not
to me.
born 50 years ago. I was, so I
Ah, yeah,
mean,
I can't even imagine.
well, tell me. I mean, there's a story that I know. Maybe you can talk about it without giving any names or anything, but something that happened on a WhatsApp.
Oh God.
Yeah, because it talks about.
Yes.
I mean, the
Yeah.
reason
No.
I'm.
Okay.
But let me tell you why I'm
I'll share it.
asking
Yeah,
before
I'll
you
share it.
share it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of pressure that you put to your on yourself. There's pressure that maybe your mom
Yeah.
or parents put on you. Maybe husbands too. But there's something interesting to me, which is the pressure that women put on women.
Absolutely. So this plays out everywhere. It plays
Yeah.
out in schools. So this is a school anecdote. So what happened is, for some reason, the moms get added to the WhatsApp chats, for their kids. The men are not. They're not even added.
Fine, but just to give some background, when you have children, the best way apparently for parents to communicate with other parents, not the schools, but the parents, is through a WhatsApp chat of that years.
Yeah,
I mean
the class,
the class
or the club or whatever it is.
Correct. And in this case, they created a WhatsApp for the drama club.
It was the musical, the school musical.
Right. The drama club. So.
Yeah. So
not being too specific, but apparently you are.
Okay, sorry.
Anyway,
I apologize. So anyway, I was part of the chat. Ricardo didn't even know the chat existed because he wasn't added, not by choice. He just was not added. And there was a meeting, and I wasn't going to be able to make it. So I sent Ricardo to the meeting. And when Ricardo got there, he was very lost because he is not privy to the chat, and the chat is where they communicate all the information. So he gets to the meeting, and he's completely lost. So he calls me, and he's like, I don't know what's going on here, and he calls me, and I'm trying to put him up to speed.
But you weren't clear enough. So you wrote in the chat, "Hey, can you guys explain XYZ to me?" And then someone later wrote in that same chat and erased it quickly, but it was fast enough for everyone to read, including me, later, because I asked them to put me in the chat. Something in the lines of, "Oh God, look at this woman again, sending her husband to do her job.
And she's always
lost.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that was quickly erased.
Yeah.
Is that the gist?
That's the gist of the story.
So, I mean, what I remember seeing, a feeling, if it's reading that and thinking, whoa, it's interesting how this group of parents, especially women, moms, are judging other women for not for not doing what they're supposed to do, even though as a father, I have the same level of responsibility. And just to be clear, at that time, your dad was in the hospital. And then we had someone that helped us with her kids for years that she was sick too. So Cristina was taking care of them both. And that's why she asked me if I can take care of my own daughters. And I thought it was interesting because I've always noticed that for whatever reason, and this might be unfair, that women could be very critical of women, more than men on women.
Yeah, I think so. It's sad. I think it's sad. Because
what do you think that is? I'm just curious.
I don't know why that. I think it boils down to these same societal expectations that keep being it brought down generation to generation. Like there's all this pressure on women, and then even the same women will have that same pressure. They have this expectation that that's what needs to happen, and then instead of letting other women choose a different path, it's like, oh, well, she's failing at her role or her responsibility.
So let's go back to the gender equality issue. Why did it become intentional for you? What led you for your intentionality in that subject?
Well, some of the things that I observe in our company, for example, and when we're recruiting, I think I've spoken about this before, but as as you progress in the profession, what happens is women tend to drop out of the profession, and they drop out voluntarily. But it's because the profession is kind of kicking them out because it's not supporting them. So
In what way do you think it's not supporting them?
so for example, even the workday, right? The workday is made for men, 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. Kids get out of school at 3. Somebody has to pick them up. And usually it's the woman. And so the man is able to stay working to the full shift, but someone has to go pick up the kids, right? And so the systems that we have in place, and I think it's many times it's unconscious, but these are the systems in place that continue to perpetuate these situations. Well, it just doesn't support women. So, or I'm saying women because women is usually who has to do this, but it doesn't support parents. Okay. And so unless in your company you provide the flexibility so that the caregiver, man or woman, can take care of this, then it comes to a point where child care is so expensive that at some point you make a choice. You're like, you know what? It's so expensive to send my kids to childcare for them stay extra hours after school, and
the amount of money I'm making is not compensating.
It's not
the amount of money I have
compensating.
to pay for a third party.
So they're like, you know what? And so sometimes couples make the decision. They say, you know, we're better off if one of us stays at home, and usually that person is the woman.
Right.
And so,
but there's something years ago with the UN that specifically made it clear for you. So talk about that.
Well, we joined the Forward Faster movement, the gender equality commitment, and we did that last year.
And what is that?
So the UNGC is the UN Global Compact, is the largest corporate sustainability initiative in the world, and we joined the UNGC in 2019 as a company, and so we are actively trying to incorporate the Sustainable Development Goals into our operations and our business practices. The Sustainable Development Goals after COVID are in peril. Like, we're not on track to meet them by 2030.
When you say we, is it the company
the
or
world?
The world? Oh.
The world.
Because the company, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you're doing to
yes. We're doing our part, but
correct.
The world is behind in the Sustainable Development Goals. And so they launched an initiative this past year called Forward Faster. And the idea is to focus on 5 of the 17 goals. And among them is gender equality as one of the ones that are going to move the needle the most. And part of what happens with this topic is when you lose 50% of your workforce because of some of these systematic issues that I've been mentioning, that's a huge loss of value. I mean, you want women to be able to also produce and add value to the whole economy. And when they can't do that because of systematic policies, we lose out. The whole world loses out.
Oh, okay. But how have you been able to implement some of those things in your company?
So in our company, we are providing flexible policies in order to support the women. We also there's.
But wait, I have to interrupt you though, because you said to support women.
Sorry, women and men, both.
I know, but talk about that because it was something that it became an issue on an internal debate in which you wanted to make sure. Again, because your focus is in making things fair.
Yes.
So talk about that.
So, in Puerto Rico, we, by law, we are required to pay maternity leave, which is great, by the way, because this is not the case in the U.S.
Well, we're part of the U.S., but
yes, but Puerto Rico has
the
territory itself.
Its labor laws are very specific,
right? And
so
Puerto Rico's labor laws
closer to what some of the European laws are.
Yes, so our labor laws do require paid maternity leave.
8 weeks.
The U.S. does not require paid maternity leave.
Federally, it's not
And
required.
I think that is just the most ridiculous thing. We're the only developed nation in the world that does not offer paid maternity leave, but I'm not going to go into that tangent. However, we wanted to make sure that we are not reinforcing this bias that it's only the woman's job to take care of the child. So we had a man who was going to become a father, and I insisted that we pay
Oh,
paternity leave.
the point is that you implemented the
Mhm.
paternity leave, but not 5 days like it's required by law,
By law,
but the
it's
same
5
amount of
days.
time
Same amount, men
and
or
women.
and women. And this is extremely important because in order to not reinforce this, that it's the mom's job to stay with the baby when they're born.
Or the fact that they can both stay
Right.
and help each other,
Support each
and
other
support each
and
other.
make decisions
Because
together.
this is not a win some, lose some thing. I mean,
Correct. So
so
is
what
that the
else?
story?
Well, no. I mean, but what else do you think you've done?
So the flexible policies support women, promoting women to leadership positions. So
Okay.
in our company, we have, besides you in leadership, we have one other man. Everyone else is a woman.
In a leadership position.
In a
yes.
leadership position, yes.
True.
So
And we have how many people in leadership positions? 8, 9?
I think so.
So 10, and out of 10, 2 of them are men.
Are men. So 80-20.
So why is that? Because I have something that I want to go into here. Do you think there's some gender equality? Do you think it influences innovation? Does it influence culture? Does it influence creative thinking? I mean, is that it might be a very generic question, but I'm curious to know what you think.
I think it definitely influences all of it. I think basically when you have diversity of thought, diversity of experience, there's data that shows that the most successful companies, their boards have women in them. And it's not because they're women, it's because there's diversity of thought. Basically, you want people with different experiences, with different perspectives, because they bring up your blind spots. So when we can have just social economic diversity, gender diversity, that's why diversity and inclusion practices. That's the idea behind that. That everything will improve.
Well, it should not be homogeneous.
Right.
Is it homogeneous?
Homogeneous, because
Homogeneous, yeah.
otherwise we have blind spots that we don't know what they are.
Correct.
So if everybody's the same, then we just reinforce our beliefs to one another, and you want people that will call you out and challenge your thoughts and let have you thought about this? Have you considered this perspective? Have you, and unless you live it, many times it's difficult. Even if you're an empathic person, it's difficult to know what someone else's experience is like unless you've lived it.
Well, has there been any moment in your experience that you felt, work-wise, not personally, because you mentioned some stories and so forth, in which you felt that you were ostracized because of gender?
I had a situation, yes, where I belonged in a board, and I felt that it was difficult to speak up in that board because there were very few women on the board, and there was very much a boys' club kind of mentality. And unless you have a critical mass of women, even if you have one woman in the room, it's very difficult for that woman to feel comfortable enough for there to be the psychological safety for her to speak up. So it's not just about having women on the board, but it's about having enough women.
And you said it, and the
psychological safety, so that you can be enriched by those perspectives. I mean, that's why you want them there. It's not just to check a box and the token woman in the room.
Well, that happens often.
It happens often, unfortunately.
So many years ago, you put a book next to me called
Lean In.
Lean In. And I saw the book, and I went to sleep every night seeing the book next to me, and I would not read it. until Cristina basically force fed me the book. Um, there are a couple things in that book that I think are great. Um, just so you know, I mean, you could talk about what the book is. It's a very simple book, but I think
Mhm.
I honestly, I think it's more important that men read it than women, to be
I
honest. In the same thing that when I had the opportunity to have conversations with men uh, eh, about these issues, because like it or not, uh, what is it? What percentage of men are CEOs in the United States? You know,
I
I think it's over. I think women CEOs are not up to maybe 17% only. It's very
Mhm.
low.
Mhm.
So, but anyway, talk about this book because I think that there's some important topics in them that after I read it,
Mhm.
it just struck me. It's something I didn't even realize before.
So the book is Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg,
Mhm.
who she worked at Facebook. I forgot her
She used to be
position.
the
The
CFO.
CFO at Facebook. Um, and and basically what she's bringing forth in the book is this idea that women should lean in into leadership and into just work, because oftentimes women will opt out, and they will take themselves out of the opportunity. And there's some very interesting data. So for example, if there's a job description and you see the job requirements, a man, if they have maybe 40% of the requirements, they'll apply for the job. A
They'll
woman,
lean in.
yes, a
Thank you.
woman, unless she feels that she meets like 100% of those requirements, she won't even apply. And so, and oftentimes you have this situation where a woman will know a lot more about the topic than the man, but for whatever reason, she will second guess herself. And so she won't speak out. And then men, maybe knowing a quarter, have the confidence or the courage to speak out and speak their mind. And so it's bringing awareness to this issue, especially I think for men, to include women and make sure they make psychologically safe spaces, and maybe ask women, when like knowing these things about women. If you say, what do you think, Cristina? What do you think? It will encourage women to speak out, and also bringing that awareness to women so that they know that they do this, and maybe kind of fight that urge to, okay, I don't need to meet every requirement in order to apply. So there are some great takeaways in that book, and I highly recommend it to everyone.
So, okay, we're almost done today. And I know this is a topic that you can talk about for a long time.
Forever.
But if there's one takeaway anyone should, you know, get out of today's conversation, what do you think that is?
One takeaway. Well, I think awareness more than anything. Awareness. Be aware that these situations happen. I remember once somebody telling me, "Don't you think we're going a little overboard?" And my answer is no, we're not, because these situations continue to exist, and the parity in pay gap is not there. The women CEOs in power are not there. Women on boards are not there. So obviously, we have a really long way to go, and unless we become aware that we have a situation to address, we're not going to make the systematic and structural changes that we need to make.
That's awesome. Well, we'll finish with that. So, Christina, thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for joining us
I
here
try
on
not to
the.
interrupt you as often
Thanks,
because I'm
Ricardo.
a man. I apparently love to interrupt women. So I'm kidding. But anyway, thank you so
So
much. I appreciate it. So,
thank you. And remember, everyone, transformation begins from the inside out.
thank you.